Just behind taking a good quality front photo of the house, the sign installation may be the most important thing that you do as a property support specialist. But it's not always as easy as you would think. In Texas, sometimes it doesn't rain very often in the summer. The ground can become quite hard and dry and almost impossible to install a sign into. So we've got a few techniques to give you some ideas on how you can effectively install the sign every single time you go to the property. The very best way to prepare the ground for sign installation in these dry conditions is to carry a bottle of water with you and adequately moisten the ground around the areas that the legs of the sign frame are going to be inserted to the ground, and that'll make the job a whole lot easier. But sometimes the water alone isn't enough. Sometimes you'll have to use a little hand shovel to dig out some areas and loosen the soil. But using these tools can make the job so much easier. From time to time, you will find a situation where no amount of water poured on the ground will actually soften the ground enough to get the sign installed. So what you can do is come up with some alternative methods for installing the sign. Now you've got to keep in mind, we've got to maintain a professional image, and if you do something crazy with the sign, that it will reflect bad on the company, and we may have to ask you to go out to the property again to reinstall the sign. This is one acceptable alternative method for installing the sign in the ground. Now this is definitely not preferred over moistening the ground with water using that method, but under any circumstances, you just do not leave the property without installing that sign. Pick up the phone, give us a call. Maybe we can brainstorm on some creative ideas, and this is one alternative method that you can use. We've removed all of the guesswork as to how we expect for the sign to be installed in the ground. The best way to do this is to install it fairly deep. Approximately 8 inches into the ground will help the sign withstand just about any storm. So what we've done is we've drawn gray lines 8 inches from the ground up to indicate how deep you should install the sign. One of the required photos that you'll be asked to take is a photo showing exactly how deep the sign is installed in relation to this gray line. That gives us an idea as to whether or not it's installed properly. We have some sign frames with foot pegs, however most of them don't have foot pegs. In the case where it has foot pegs, this is about adequate. If you get just an inch or two below the foot peg, then we know that it's been installed deep enough. One photo that we ask you to take is of the sign in front of the house so that you can see both the sign and the front of the house in the photo. Well, if the sign is installed properly, then it puts the sign perpendicular to the house and it makes it really difficult to see what's written on the sign. So sometimes it's necessary to install the sign just temporarily facing the street so that it looks good for the photo. Then, before you leave the property, you absolutely must install the sign the correct way. And the correct way is perpendicular to the street, just as you see in this other photo. Here's some samples of other required photos that we ask you to take. Top left there shows our equal housing logo that's right in the middle of our company logo. We do this to make sure that there's an equal housing sign on every piece of advertising that our company name is on. So we need a close-up of that so we can show our asset manager that the equal housing logo is on every sign. Here's a photo of the flyer box. That's how you do it. We need it close enough so you can actually read what's written on the flyer box, on the flyer. And here's a photo of the entire front of the sign showing all the sign writers. Here's a photo showing the middle sign writer, and here's a photo showing the lower sign writer, the asset management sign writer. Now these sign writers, some of them, some of the sign frames will be laid out a little differently, so some of the sign writers will be on top of the sign, some of them below the sign, one way or the other. You get the idea. We just need good photos of every single sign writer. Last but certainly not least, if you're ever visiting a property after the sign has already been installed, one of the things we ask you to do is to be on the lookout for any kind of issues with the sign. If it isn't installed deep enough, we ask for you to push it into the ground a little bit more. Inevitably, sometimes you're going to run across signs that have been uprooted, or the guy cutting the lawn just took the sign out and forgot to put it back in the ground. And then here on the right, you'll see how the extension number's faded. This is such a key thing for us. A lot of traffic, a lot of leads, and a lot of buyers for these properties end up calling that 1-800 number, and they have to enter that extension number in, or else they'll never get the information that they need. So we ask if that number is faded for you to go ahead and go over it real good so that it'll appear dark so people can read it from the street. And that completes the sign installation tutorial. As always, if you're ever at a property and you're having problems or you have questions about these checklists before you leave, just always pick up the phone and give us a call. We're happy to help you any way we can. Thank you.